connect it to phone and monitor it. Yeah, you can do the same thing with me, but yeah, we can go download it and we do the same thing. This one had a bunch of good movies. I don't know the
Well, yeah. You already connected to this one, right? Are you connected?
I couldn't get it to connect because it's screaming, it says. But I don't, yeah, it is. It's streaming right now. I couldn't get it to connect because it was already streaming. I should have connected before. You got to connect before you start it. But that button goes into the next scheduled YouTube that's on that channel. So all you have to do is hit that button and it'll turn on what I understand to be both of them. And you can just set it up to auto. So I was thinking we'll just stick one like really close and one back there connected to the box.
Okay.
So we can just hook up a lapel and it'll go right into the, I'll just get a cable that goes right into it.
That'd be perfect.
And then when you do your podcast, you'll just pick up the cameras, bring them in there, plug in the camera, and do it that way. And if you're gonna do it like Sunday morning, we'll just change the stream to start at like 10:30 when we actually start serving.
Yeah.
They want my soul, better go to Korea. I love my dog just like I'm Peter. Gotta protect him. I made the call up with just like I'm repping. I know we left it, now we back together, but I guess that is better now. Later than never, like, what's happening? I'ma need y'all quit asking when. Me and my wife gonna have some kids. Right now we just practicing. Practicing. Teacher said quit rapping, man. That gonna hurt my average. I said, thank God I ain't average. Yeah, I'm a bright young man. You the GPA and the BPM. Look, we on. So say what you say, cause that's A to the grade. From the A train to the A, I'm coming in. I don't do the most, but I do a lot. I'ma make a toast, cause we still alive. No big, feel like pop. Shoot a shot. Coming in. Was a headline. Your real life got a deadline. My timeline was a hashtag. Your timeline just a hate crime coming in hot. Feeling like pop. Back in line 4 when he took 5 shots. Too much drive to ride your way. This my top and I'm off that lot. Black on black on black on black on black on black on black. You don't have to bother rap to get them blacks on racks. Uber pullers trying to catch my body and find my way. Yeah, I know I'm ratchet, but I really say hot sauce drip. Everybody wants to start different. First nobody wanna listen. Now everybody pay attention. Now everybody pay feet. Even Trump now taking me. When the horn blow, y'all gon' see. Make the wall fall down like. I don't do the most, but I do a lot. I'ma make a toast, cause we still alive. No big. I feel like pop. I shoot the shot. I'm coming in hot. Coming in hot. Coming in hot. Shoot that shot. Shoot that shot. Shoot why not? Hey, why not? Ain't no big. Ain't no big. Feel like pop. We can move.
different when profits are marred and indifferent by all the residuals was given. Somehow it's a false ones calling it spirit, we're calling it living. Boom. Jackpot, I'ma write kinda like dynamite when behind a mic. I'ma strike like a matchbox. Got a couple mics and some merchandise. If you like it, I might just go get the cash box. Stack lots for the have-nots. Oh no, I know what you thinking, bro. It's in cash lot. Photo, Humble Beast just unleashed a new mascot. And we come in peace, but the Middle East is the backdrop. We ain't never scared. We don't need no screen and no laptop. Toto, we're not in Kansas no more. Shoot the explosions in slow-mo before we go. We help to defeat diseases. They preach the teams at OVO. YOLO ain't freedom, delete it, now flash the logo. This is more than recorded, it's devour the score than orbit from door to door. A tour with a power more than a plan, or just how the Lord, the lion and lamb, cause save him and child becomes man. This is crash test, dummy slap, unravel it.
Check. Ladies and gentlemen, stop what you're doing, put it away, and take a seat.
Stand up, hands up.
Stop what you're doing.
Everybody move, this is
Take a
crash
seat.
test, dummy slap, unravel it, mummy rap. Cadavers on earth, birth savages in a money trap.
Hands up. Hands up. Everybody move. All right, today we're gonna have a quick rap battle between Darius Corey and Major George.
All right.
Y'all ready? Are y'all okay with that?
I can't rap.
Y'all ready for that? I'll give the beat. These gentlemen are gonna see who can spit the quickest bars. Anybody think they can beat them? Bryson, I know you can rap. You think you can beat them, Bryson? Possibly. You want to challenge them?
Sure.
What about you, Isaiah? You gonna rap them? I know you got some bars. Come on, man. No? Next week? How about we set it up for next week? Is that okay?
It wouldn't be freestyle though.
Or are you ready today? Oh, he's got a good point. It won't be freestyle. You guys want to hear them rap today or next week?
That's a good idea though.
Let's let majority rules. Put your hands up. You want to hear them rap today? Okay. Sorry, guys. That's like
disrespectful.
everybody. That's like everybody. All right. Let me find a beat. Come on.
You serious?
Come on, Darius. When am I not serious? Sure. You pull something out from your hat, Darius. Come on. Come on, Darius. You can pull it out from your hat. Listen, I feel like I prepped you this week. I feel like I prepped you. Let's look. Let's see if we can find a beat that they all agree on.
You're not typing at all.
Thank you.
Let's go youngest to oldest.
But he's already afraid. What? Dang. Here we go. Rap, beat, instrumentals.
Yeah, afraid. That's perfect.
Let's hear it real quick.
Will no longer tolerate and we will no longer be afraid.
There you go. They even give you a little background. You not feeling it? What do you think, Bryson? You feeling it?
I don't know. We can do it. Let's give the people what they want.
Alright, Major says, I got no problem challenging. You don't like that one?
It was alright. But I can't rap though, so it's just.
Why can't you rap? I've heard you rap in this room several times freestyle. Freestyle, not like on and popping. You need your brother in here, I know.
I haven't listened to any rap music in a while, so it's gonna be like kind of weird.
That's okay. Let's keep it real. Who wants to go first? Bryson, are you youngest?
I think
How old are you? 17?
16.
You're the youngest. Come on. Get up here. Let's see what you got. You want to go back to the other one? This is good.
I'll spit bars that you can never replicate. You better get ready, cause I'm finna decimate. I'm finna rock this place. I'm finna rock this place. So raise the roof right now and I don't want no hate. Yeah, it's finna get miracle. It'll be a miracle if I can get this. Wrong spitting, I'm just thinking. Somebody listen, yeah, somebody listen. Open up my Bible and I'm ready to pray. I'm ready to get down and say this, say what? Does that make sense? I'm not sure. It don't matter. You want some more? Cause I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep spitting it. I'm going to keep going. Yeah, I'm going to keep flicking it. No matter what you're going to do, what you're going to say. I'm here to battle and I'll come again anyway.
Oh!
Any day. What you gotta say? Yeah. All right. That's it.
Great job. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Major George, you want the same song or do you want a different one? Okay, we're gonna rewind. I know Darius is warming up back there. I can see him. You didn't know he's gonna come out the gate. Put your hands together, Bryson. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go, representing the youth leaders. Darius Corey, listen. I didn't give him no prep for none of this, so if he falls on his face, I don't want to be blamed, okay? You want the same song? You want a different song? Why are you trying to take the mic from me yet, man?
Trying to make this quick and easy.
I'm on camera too. It's great.
Yeah, don't worry.
It's on YouTube live.
I forgot about that.
Feel free to work the camera.
Listen. I'm a freestyle, but I ain't gonna do it well.
All I do is smell.
I'm a freestyle, but I ain't gonna do it well. I'ma spit it off the top like a orca whale. I ain't trying to go to hell, I'm trying to go to heaven. Just like my cousin Kevin, even though he's alive, trying to get, I don't know, see? Listen. We only got one life, just like I got one mic. I'ma go long sight. I'ma go for a short time. I'ma try to rhyme, because every time that I try to do it, I trip and fall. I don't know how to ball. That's it. Sorry, y'all.
Ladies and gentlemen, Darius Corey, good job. Nicely done. All right, let's pick a winner. Who do you think? Who thinks Darius Corey won?
Darius.
He got one vote. Okay, who thinks Bryson won? Put your hands up. Let me hear you. He got 2 votes. Who do you think Major won? All right, Major, I got a prize for you afterwards, all right?
All right, sounds good.
Isaiah, you want to challenge him? Yeah. You think you can beat him? I know you can.
Say yes, way too loud.
All right.
No, go ahead.
Look, the reason I want to do that this week is because I think you can worship God in so many different ways. And while we have been on this journey of worshiping, right? These guys got up here and used something that you guys were not expecting, but yet still jumped into worship, right? And I just thought it was cool. I knew they could do it. I knew they could handle it. So we're going to jump right into what we want to teach today, and we're going to go from there. If we got some time at the end, we're going to do some worship, but I just wanted to express you can worship God in any shape, fashion, or form. Right, Bryson?
Yes, sir.
Sometimes it's just being creative on the spot, right, Caden? Yes? And that's what these gentlemen did. They didn't come up here and cuss. They just shared what God was doing in their hearts and in their lives, and that is exciting. All right, I'm going to put this mic down because I don't like it. Who could tell me what we taught last week? I know some of you were here. I think all of you were here, actually. So y'all should have your notes. I'm going to let you go get them first. Go get your notes. If you don't have a notebook, go get one. You're going to want to take it.
5 levels of communication.
5 levels of communication. Major's already on it. Can you name those 5 levels? Oh!
Wait,
I feel like one started with an A. I can like kind of tell you what a couple of them kind of meant.
No,
but
I need the name, and then I need to know what they
I don't
meant.
have my notebook.
How does this one expand? Come on. Let's close this out.
It's just bad for me. Every week I've had a different notebook in here. My notes are scattered across like 3 years.
Try that again. Let's see if this will open it up. Nope. Tell you what, Macs do not like to play DVDs anymore. They're over it. Like, really? You don't play what? There we go. Okay.
God's Christ.
Titus, hit me.
Statistic.
Statistics, we got you, man. We got you. Statistics. Who can give me another one?
Cosyntax.
Cosyntax. Yes, yes, yes. Janelle, what you got? What is it?
There we go.
Apobatics. What is apobatics? That's the highest level, right? Knee. What is it? Pragmatics. We got one more.
Semantics.
Semantics. Good. Can anybody tell me what any of those mean?
Yeah.
Hit me.
So, statistics, which is the lowest level of information. And then cosyntax is one level outside of what the natural world can do for you.
Okay.
Semantics is 2 levels outside of what the natural world can do for you. Pragmatics is 3 levels outside of what the natural world can do for you, sorry. And then apobatics is the highest level of information. And it's where DNA's level of intelligence is.
Great. That's where I was going to ask next. So that is where the level of intelligence is. DNA. That's that kind of information. Can somebody give me an example of apobatics? An example of apobatics.
Making a request for something, knowing something's going to come out of it.
Yeah, making a request for something, knowing something's going to come out of it. Like my dog, well, he is his dog, knows that if he gets fed, then he's going to get to go out after that. So he's requesting food, knowing that he's going to go after that. Okay, give me the next one. What did we talk about? We did 2. What was the next thing we talked about?
The cumulative case for design.
Okay, we talked about a bacterial flagellum. Can anybody give me any information about that? What was it about, Janelle? Why is it important we know about it? He gave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different attributes of design. Can anybody give me any of those attributes of design? Elijah, what you got? Probability. What does that mean? Would it come together by chance, right? Is it probable that if nobody ever did anything, would this thing come together by chance? Isaiah. Echoes of family. What is that? Familiarity is what you meant. Does it resemble something else? You were right. You just said a family. It's familiarity. It's echoes of familiarity, not family. Kind of means the same thing. That's what I think. That's what I think too. What were you going to say, Janelle? You have one? Not yet? Hit me.
Sophistication and intricacy, and it needs to be specific.
Is it sophisticated? Is it intricate? So what he's saying is when you look at something in the world, like this chair, I use my pen, right? Is this pen able to come together by chance? Well, what would we say? Probably not. Does it resemble something that's already here? Sure. And if this was created, then I know that this was created. If somebody made this, then I have a good idea that this probably was made, right? Okay. Next level, is it sophisticated? How many parts are it? What are these parts made of? Are they something that the universe could just make, or is it sophisticated that somebody had to create it? What's the next one? Informational dependency. If you don't have these written down, this should be the time where you're writing them down. Does it require information to build? You ever did a Lego set? How many people have ever, I know you've never done this, but I'm going to ask anyways. How many people have opened up a brand new 1,000-piece Lego set and said, you know what? I got this. Took the directions and burned them and said, you know what? If I cannot build this myself, I don't want this Lego set. None of you. You always open it up like little children. You follow one piece at a time, right? You don't go on an adventure with Legos. You want to build what was there. You want to build it, right? And it requires, some of those Lego sets require how many pages? 30, 40, 50 pages of just
107
craziness, right? As you get up in your Lego set, it goes up and up and up. So it's that Lego set is what? Informationally dependent. You cannot build that Lego set unless you follow the instructions. Okay? What else? What else?
Goal direction.
Goal direction. Does it have a purpose? Does this pen have a purpose for why it was built? Of course. It has several purposes, right? Can anybody name one of the purposes that this pen has?
To leave a mark on paper.
For writing. What else?
And ink.
Correct. What else? This pen has another purpose. Advertisement. Yeah, absolutely. Has anybody ever built a spitball cannon with a pen?
No.
That's another purpose. Poof, right? Open it up, take it apart, it turns into a whole other thing, right? It's got all kinds of purposes you can use this for.
It's a fidget device too.
It's a fidget device. If you've got a little anxiety, I'll do this all the time. I used to sit in meetings with Pastor Lloyd and he would say to me, Pastor Josh, can you stop clicking that pen? Like, I could click it all day, right? Good answer. All right, what else? Natural inexplicability. Explain that to me.
It can't be explained by something that's already here.
Yeah, was it natural? Is there a physical law that governs that creation of that thing? What else?
Efficiency.
Efficiency. This is a good one. What does that mean, Isaiah? No, inexplicably complex. Can I build this pen with fewer than what he said? The mousetrap is inexplicably complex to 6 pieces. It requires 6 pieces to set up a mousetrap, build it so that it will kill a mouse. Right? Same thing with this pen. You will not be able to make this pen. You might be able to make it down to a certain pieces, but if you're trying to get this pen to click like this, it probably can't be made with less pieces than what's here right now. So it's inexplicably complex, which means somebody had to actually think about how this is going to work and how many pieces, because what is the name of the game? Money. And if I can make this with less pieces, it's going to cost me less money and I'm going to make more money because of it. What's the last one? Who's got the very last one? Design. Does it have a reason that it was designed? Now we talked about that bacterioflagellum. We're not going to dig that deep into that again. We're going to jump right into what we're going to talk about today, and that is this: the experience of consciousness, being conscious. Okay. Now, what do you think? Let's think about it like this. Let's talk about your brain and your mind, right, for a second. What role does your thought life aid in you becoming a Christian? Now, let me rectify this, Jalen. Let's say you decide to become a Christian and you don't do anything with your thought life, are you actually a Christian? Okay, let's say you decide to become a Christian and you take all your thoughts under subjection and you hold them accountable to the new change that you have made in your life. Would you say that your mind has a big role to play in you being a Christian, or no role at all? A big role, right? A huge role. Okay. What about different beings? Let's talk about this, Caden. Humans and angels. Let's talk about the difference between a human and an angel. What do you think? When it comes to souls, minds, the realities that they live in, who has what? What do humans have that angels don't? What do angels have that humans don't? What do you think? Yeah, your name's Caden, right? All day, every day, I thought. Do humans have souls? Do they have minds? Do they live on earth? Do angels have souls? Do they have minds? Do they live on earth? Okay, I'm just asking. You can say whatever you want. I'm just curious. What about the difference between your body and your soul? Let's talk about that for a minute. This all comes back to consciousness. Bryson, what's the difference between your body and your soul?
Your body is like something physical.
The body is something physical? Okay, that's one good difference. What do you think? He says his body is temporary. Okay. What do you think? Give me one. Difference between body and soul.
The body has like functions like blood and things inside of it.
Okay. And the soul doesn't?
The soul is more dependent on like taking in God's word and praying rather than things that are like blood and your organs are inside of it.
Okay. Cool. Now let me go to this one last place. What has a soul, or what has a consciousness, and what doesn't have a consciousness? Do ants have consciousnesses?
Yeah. I mean, I would think so.
Raven, why are you looking at me like that? Think so?
Yeah.
Do dogs have a consciousness?
Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent. It's not like the highest level person. They have it to a certain extent.
Okay. We are going to look at this today, and we are going to have a much better understanding of this. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about consciousness first. You can write that on the top of your notes. Consciousness. How did it come to being, and did God created it, or did it come from the universe? And the second thing we're going to talk about today is free will, or full wiring. Do you have actual free will, or has God designed it all? Maybe. There we go.
Okay, we've talked now about two pieces of evidence from cosmology and two pieces of evidence from biology. And now we're going to move toward two pieces of what I call mental evidence, where again, we're trying to explain this evidence. We're going to have two options. Either we stay inside the room of the natural universe, space, time, matter, physics, and chemistry, or we jump outside the natural realm for the better explanation if there is one. Now, I want to talk about the idea of consciousness for a minute. We sometimes, take it for granted, but you've been thinking about all of these lines of evidence all through this curriculum series. What are you using in order to think about? Are you using your brain? Well, in a sense you are. Are you using your mind? Do you think you actually possess a mind? Sometimes when we're working criminal investigations, we have to identify suspects. And it can be confusing because the person might say, I know the person who did this is J. Warner Wallace. But somebody else might know me as Jim Wallace. Well, how do I know that J. Warner Wallace is the same person that somebody else describes as Jim Wallace? Well, if all of my attributes as J. Warner Wallace are identical to all the attributes I have as Jim Wallace, then this one-to-one relationship, this law of identity, says that we are one and the same person. Jim Wallace is, in fact, identical to J. Warner Wallace, at least this Jim Wallace. Okay, this law of identity is helpful because when we start to think about consciousness, we have to ask the question, are we entirely physical beings? Are we using our brain right now to think about this, or are you using your mind to? We seem to have this sense, this experience of consciousness. But how do we explain that experience if atheism is true and all we can use to explain our consciousness is space-time, matter, physics, and chemistry? Look, the brain is easier to explain, right? It's physical. If we are in a physical universe, then physical things like brains make sense. But non-material things that, say, Christians often think exist, like angels and demons and souls and minds, these are not easy to explain in a physical universe. This is why philosophers typically call this the problem of mind. Well, how do we explain mind? Do we actually have minds? Some are inclined to say, well, no, we're in a physical universe governed by physical laws, so all we really have is a brain, and everything you think you're experiencing as a mind is simply an artifact of your physical brain. But I'm here to tell you, I think there is good evidence to indicate that your mind is something different than your brain. And we're going to use the law of identity to do it. Here's what I mean. If every aspect of brain is identical to every aspect of mind, then we can just say there are no minds. It's just we're experiencing our brain activity. But if there are different properties to mind than there are to brain, then we'd have to at least concede that there are two different things. There are certain things that are true about brains and certain things that are true about mind. Let me offer you several lines of evidence to help you see that these are, in fact, two different things. The first is a very simple one. It's the distinction between public and private. Your brain is entirely public, but your thoughts, your mind is entirely private. So I could, for example, take off your skull cap and have to run an experiment where I am looking at your physical brain. I could see your physical brain. It's publicly available to me. But your mind is not publicly available to me. It's privately held by you. Even if I could see some activity, the neurons that are firing in your brain, I'd have to ask you, well, what are you thinking? To try to associate that with your brain. Your brain is publicly available. Your thoughts are privately held. And this difference between public and private demonstrates at the very first level that we are talking about two different things here, brain and mind. There's another distinction between mind and brain that's really interesting, and philosophers call this intentionality. What it means is basically this. Our mental states are always about something. We worry about our job. We think about what we're going to eat for lunch. They are not what we would say self-existent. Well, the lunch is self-existent. Some things, material things, they just exist. They are self-existent. But your thoughts, your mental states are not self-existent. They are about something else. That makes them very different. So your brain exists, it's self-existent, but your thoughts, your mind, the activity in your mind, your mental states they're dependent on something else. They are not self-existent. This difference I call the difference between isness, things that just are, and aboutness, things that are about something else. So this difference between isness and aboutness, as I call it, is yet another difference between your brain and your mind. Let me give you another example of the difference between mind and brain. I might hear a noise in the next room and think there's a burglar in the next room. But I'm wrong. There's no burglar in the next room. I'm afraid there is. Now, I could be wrong about the presence of a burglar, the existence of the burglar in the next room. But my fear of the burglar in the next room is indisputable. This is the difference between physical things and mental states. You cannot dispute that I'm having a belief, I'm having a fear, that's indisputable. But the actual physical reality of the thing I'm worried about, the thing I'm afraid of, that is something we could falsify. And this is yet again the difference between physical things like burglars and brains and non-physical things like minds and beliefs, fears, and thoughts. We've now discovered yet another thing that separates mind from brain. Yet another way that minds are different than brains. Look, we get trained all the time to experience some crazy things in law enforcement. You can train us in a certain way on what we're going to experience. You can tell us in advance of what your body is going to do when confronted with violence or confronted with a threat. You can understand the physiology of your body. But until you've experienced it firsthand, you can think you know everything there is to know, but you haven't experienced it and you don't yet know what your reactions are going to be, how you're going to perceive things differently. In other words, there are a set of things that can be known impersonally and objectively because we can examine the physical nature of these things. But your experiences, your reactions, we cannot do. We cannot know those things. Those are subjective. Those are the things that you experience personally. And this difference between objective, impersonal, physical realities and the personal reactions we have subjectively is yet another distinction between physicality, brains, and non-physicality, minds. And let me give you one more that seems pretty obvious. I could actually remove my brain and measure it in some way. I could put it on a scale, measure its weight. I could measure its width. I could measure its length. I could measure its mass. But you cannot measure the mass of your thoughts. You cannot measure the length of your thoughts or the weight of your thoughts. There are differences between mental states and physical states. And one is immeasurable and one is measurable. Yet another difference, let's put it in diagram form. Take a look at this diagram. This diagram shows you 5 lines of evidence that distinguish mind from brain. We have good reasons to believe that your brain is not the same as your mind. And why is that important? Well, think about it. If we're staying inside the realm of the universe to explain what we experience in our thought life, well, brains are easy to explain because they could be part of a process, a physical process governed by physical laws that could produce. To say that I'm sad and then you see me frowning, what you're really describing is the behavior of frowning. So the sad thing, this word you're using to describe frowning is simply a description of a physical behavior. Well, that makes it easier to explain from inside the room, right? Because it's just a physical behavior described by physical laws are governing a physical universe. Now, there's a problem with behaviorism, though, because think about it. There are times when I'm sad, but I don't express it. And if I'm not expressing it, how can you call my behavior as identical to my thought life? It's not. There's times when I will. Also, if behavior is identical to your thought life, I wouldn't even know how I feel until I look in the mirror and see what my behavior is. But clearly, I have something that precedes all of that, a sensation, a thought, a feeling, a response that precedes my physical action, my physical behavior. This idea that behaviors could somehow be identical to your thought life and therefore could be explained by physical processes just doesn't work. Now, there is another way to get conscious mind, another way to get consciousness. What if the source of everything we see in the universe is itself a mind that creates in its image other living beings that possess a characteristic of the Creator? We have minds, just like the creative mind that created us. That would explain why we experience the kind of consciousness we experience that cannot be explained through physical processes or with any of the explanations that I'm offering from inside the room in your participants guide. And now we have another attribute we can add to our list, describing this causal suspect that is responsible for everything we see in the universe. It appears that he is timeless, spaceless, immaterial. He is an uncreated, uncaused first cause. It's all-powerful, that is creative enough to just fine-tune the universe with purpose for life to emerge, and then is the source of information in biology that is responsible for all DNA. And that is also the designer behind the design we see in biology, and is a mind that designs in its image other beings that have minds. We have another 5th piece of evidence that cannot be explained from inside the room. The best explanation is, once again, outside the room.
Okay. Thoughts? Give me your thoughts. What did you think? How does our consciousness, our mind, and our brain, and the differences that it has, how does it point to the existence of God?
The Bible says we're created in God's image, and the fact that we have a conscience shows that we were actually created in someone else's image, because God has a conscience to like actually make us and give us a purpose, and then we are similar to him in the sense that we have a conscience as well.
Okay, good. Anybody else want to tackle that one? What do you think, Isaiah?
Something that stood out to me was when he said, like, brain is different from mine. Because, like, before I never really thought, like, it was different, so I just didn't know.
Yeah.
It was different, so he said the brain is public and personal, and the mind is private and personal. I was thinking how much different they actually could be.
Yeah, I think they're night and day. I liked at the end there where he's talking about how I can feel something and then not even display it. Like, how many times do we do that? And then I thought, how many times do I not know why I'm feeling something? Like, I might feel some type of way about something that I don't fully understand yet, which is kind of interesting. And I would take that into like a next level, right? And so intricate. What do you think about the public and private? Your brain being public and your thoughts being private. I think we all have a friend that probably says whatever on their mind, but did they really fully express everything and anything that's on their mind? What do you think, Kaden? So quiet over there. It's not like you. You're quiet today. No, you're not. In this book it says this: consciousness poses one of the most difficult conundrums for philosophers and scientists. An atheist philosopher, David Chambliss, says consciousness experience is one of the most familiar thing in the world and the most mysterious. There is nothing we know about more directly than consciousness, but it is far from clear how to reconcile it with everything we know. Why does it exist? What does it do? And how could it possibly arise from a gray lump of matter?
That was one thing. He used the word consciousness to describe the mind. So I'm thinking about how, like, if somebody is unconscious, their brain is still working to keep their heart beating, to keep everything flowing.
Yeah.
They're unconscious because their mind can no longer work.
Yeah. It's one of those things that is so difficult to explain from the natural universe that most people just say, well, it is there, it's there, and this is what I believe, so that's what I believe. We get back to if you don't ask the question of who, if you take who off the table, then you don't have answers for a lot of different things. This is one of those big things that when you take who off the table, you can't rectify consciousness, right? It becomes a big problem. And you basically have to just say, I don't know, it's there. We just don't know yet.
Kind of like adding on to what she said, I've never actually thought about it like that, but then if your brain wasn't working when you're unconscious, that just basically means like your brain did. So like that's a really good point to think about.
Yeah, interesting. Cool. Anything else you guys want to talk about on that? Or do you want to jump to the next one? Who's ready to talk about free will? What do you think of Stair and Mackie? Okay. He's gonna help us break it down a little bit. I think consciousness is probably one of the most important things we think about and we don't usually think about. I need somebody to grab me Matthew chapter 3 verse 2. I need somebody to grab me Matthew 4 verse 17. And I need somebody to grab me Acts 3 verse 19. Who's got Matthew 3 verse 2? Raise your hand if you're headed there. Major's headed to 3 verse 2. Who's got Matthew 4:17? Mackey's headed there. Who's got Acts 3:19? Astaire is headed there. All right, so let's talk about this for a second. Think about, hold that scripture in your hands. The rest of you, I want you to think about this. Have you ever made a bad choice? And tell me a time in your life you made a bad choice. Let's hear your bad choices right here, right now, today. I'm sorry it's so cold in this room. I thought I heated it up, but I'm going to try again next week.
Matthew 3:2.
Matthew 3:2. Hold it for me, though. I'm going to come to you. Who's got a bad choice? Hit me. When did you make a bad choice, Major? Was it rapping just a minute ago?
It was like pushing my homework aside to do it in the morning instead of at night.
Okay.
Like,
why was that a bad choice? Number one.
It was a bad choice because I had to wake up early to do it.
Okay.
But I didn't want to, so I didn't do it in the morning either. So
Perfect.
I got to school.
So it didn't get done.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this. What factors led to you making that decision?
I just did not. I was too lazy to do it, and I wanted to like watch something or something like that.
Probably a decision most of us would make, especially if we had another Netflix show we wanted to watch, and we just had to get to that next episode.
I know, right?
Right? Dang.
Have y'all seen
Bad decision. Isaiah, you got any bad decisions you've made in the past? Yours are all pretty good? Tell us about one of your bad decisions. Yeah. What contributed to that bad you making that decision?
Like the transition from like online school
Okay.
into actually going back. Like we really had homework during online school, and I just didn't.
You just didn't want to do it. You just would you say that you were feeling lazy?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. All right, Kaden. Bad decision. I know you got a bad decision, Kaden. Hit me. I don't know. I just see you over there looking at me, and I just want you to be involved with my conversation. Have you made any bad decisions in your life? Probably very few, but that was one of them. Just tell us about one of them, and tell us what happened. When did you make a bad decision? Too many? What about you, Elijah? You made a bad decision recently that doesn't have to do with your homework? No? Let me hear one.
We were like throwing stuff, and then I was trying to get something in my friend's book bag, and the teacher was like right outside the door. If you saw it,
You hit your friend?
I did. I was trying to throw something into like.
Okay. What do you think contributed to that bad decision?
Maybe I was bored.
You're bored? Okay. Okay. All right. What about you, Bryson? Last one. Let me get a bad decision. I know you made a lot of bad decisions in 2020.
Well, I have one that happened like a couple of days ago.
Yeah, that's even better.
I was using my phone in class when I wasn't supposed to, and I had it taken for the whole day.
Okay. What do you think contributed to that bad decision?
He wanted me to use my phone.
Okay. Okay. How many of those? How many of those bad decisions were you able to freely choose the other option? Were any of those decisions inevitable, or did you have other options to make? You had other options. You can think about one that you haven't talked to me about. You can think about one that might be nitty and gritty. Did you have another decision, or was that the only decision you had? You had to do what was set before you, or did you freely choose that decision? No. We're moving on from that. You had your chance. You can tell me later. Give me Matthew 3, verse 2.
Okay. It's saying, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand.
Okay. That's it, right? Give me Matthew 4:17.
From that time, as Jesus began to preach, turn away from these sins, and said, the kingdom of heaven is come.
Perfect. Esther, Acts 3:19.
Repent then and turn to God, so that He will forgive your sins.
Why does, here's the question, why does repentance require us the ability to act freely? It's a requirement, but why? Chase, what do you think? Why does repentance require the ability to act freely? Jalen, help him out. Okay, without repentance, you can't live. Okay.
Because if you're repenting, that means you have to sin, and that means that you also have to choose to sin.
Okay. If you're repenting, then you had to sin, and if you sin, you had to choose to sin. Let's jump in here and see what Mr. Wallace has to say about freedom and freedom of will. This one's only 10 minutes.
Okay, so we've looked now at several important pieces of evidence, and we're right in the middle of the evidence that really comes from our experience of mind. And this is important in this next category, in this next piece of evidence we're going to talk about, because free agency, your ability to think freely, to make free choices, is really tied to your notion of what it is making those free choices. Is this a product of your mind or a product of your brain? Which is it? And this is an important distinction we have to make. Let me offer it to you this way. I once worked a case involving a residential burglar, and we watched him. I was working undercover. We watched him do a burglary. And afterwards, we took him to jail for the burglary, and I had a chance to learn more about him. Here's what I learned. I learned that his entire family was involved in this kind of crime. His dad had been a lifetime burglar. His brother had been a burglar. His dad was in custody for burglary. So was his brother. Also, I learned that he was taking drugs at the time he did the crime. He was high at the time he did the crime. Now, you could argue, and I think he actually was inclined to do this with me as we were sitting talking about this, that, hey, I don't know how you can blame me for this. Because to be honest with you, I mean, this is in my family. It's in my bones. It's in my DNA. That's what we do. Everyone in my family does this kind of stuff. Not only that, my brain chemistry was altered by the narcotic. I mean, how could you blame somebody if, in fact, all their actions are tied to their DNA or tied to the physical nature of their brain? You can't blame someone for having blue eyes. That's just a product of their DNA and the structure of their eyes. You can't, those are innate qualities we can't blame you for. How could you, look, think about this. Can you blame this burglar? Can we prosecute him? Could we try him in court and find him guilty? Or did he really have no choice in the matter? If all he is a physical being who possesses a brain that's already pre-wired in a certain way and is now being affected chemically by drugs, it seems to me he's actually a victim here. He's not blameworthy at all. He's blameless. This is the problem if we assume that everything about us is merely physical. If we have brains but not minds, this presents a problem for us. And this is why, if we are in an atheistic universe made up of nothing more than space, time, and matter, a physical universe that can account for physical brains but cannot explain immaterial things like mind, well, then we've got a problem, because every action that you take is not a result of a free choice made in your non-material, non-physical mind, but is simply a consequence of the physical nature of your brain. A neuron fired. And why did it fire? Because a prior neuron fired. You had no control over all of those neurons. They're simply physical processes, dominoes that are falling against each other. And dominoes don't make choices. It's event causation rather than agent causation. Two different ways things are caused. When dominoes fall against each other, one event causes the next event. And none of these dominoes are personal agents that can decide not to fall. Let's get out of the way. Dominoes can't do that. Physical structures, like your brain, cannot explain the kind of free agency that you and I experience every day. If we have minds that can act without the constraints and limits of the physical world, which is always just a series of consequences of prior events that occurred, if we can't make those kinds of free choices, then number one, we can't be blamed for any of our actions, because really we didn't do it. The physical nature of our bodies did it. Two, we can't really rationally think because we can't choose freely between rational options. Three, we can't be creative because we're not making choices that you could call creativity. We can't even love because that's something we must choose to do freely or it really has no meaning. As a matter of fact, the most important things that you think are part of your experience as a human, love, rationality, creativity, and even culpability are not available to you if all you are is a brain that is being acted upon by physical events. So the idea of free agency is rather difficult to explain by standing inside the room of the physical universe. And people have tried to explain it. As a matter of fact, there are many people who would just reject that we really have this kind of free agency. As a matter of fact, Sam Harris, who's a neuroscientist and a philosopher, and is an atheist, says that this is entirely an illusion. This idea that you have free agency, well, not quite so, because you cannot control the neurons that fire in your brain. And this goes back all the way, by the way. The first domino is at the very beginning of the universe, and it sets in course a series of dominoes that fall that lead up to today. All of this was predetermined by your physics. Now, if that's the case, we cannot do all those things we just talked about, and we cannot be held accountable. So let's talk about this for a second. How are we going to explain this? By staying inside the room. I can explain brain. I get that. We can explain brain, but how do we explain mind? I can explain the physical determinism of your physical brain, but how do I explain the free agency we seem to experience as minds that think freely? Now we're going to talk about some of the ways that people try to stay inside the room for an explanation for free agency, and we're going to describe those in your participants guide. But I just want to kind of skip across a couple of these so you can kind of see why these don't work. Look, some people will say, well, if the activity in your brain is at the quantum level, well, we know at the quantum level that there's not the same kind of causal relationships. So like, for example, at the quantum level, things pop into existence without really any necessary cause. What if your mental activity is actually physical activity in your brain that is occurring at the quantum level? That means it would be rather indeterminate. And so it's not going to be predetermined. It's not going to be like a series of dominoes. These things emerge like thoughts emerge, and they need no prior cause. But think about that for a second. Are we really willing to say that our thoughts are entirely indeterminate? Well, then why would you trust your thoughts? If this is just quantum activity popping into existence, why would we have any confidence that the quantum activity is connected even to a chain of logic? I think that's rather scary, actually. To assume that your thoughts are entirely disconnected from anything and just pop into existence at the quantum level means that I really don't know if what I'm saying right now makes any sense at all or where it even came from, because they're entirely indeterminate. So I don't know that the quantum theories for thoughts are ever going to really solve the problem. There are some people who think this just emerged mysteriously at the end of a physical process, that this idea of free agency simply emerges even though all the factors that lead up to its emergence are constrained as event causes, event causation, that suddenly agent causation emerges. But I'm not sure we could ever find a way to demonstrate that evidentially. It's a theory. I'm sure we can say it's just so because I say it so, but it doesn't mean it's actually evidentially true. Look, every effort, and here's the diagram, every effort to describe the universe in such a way as to account for free agency from within the constructs of just space, time, and matter, guess what? That doesn't work. Now, there's another way to explain free agency, right? It's kind of the way we explain mind. If there is a mind that is the creator of everything, that acts freely to create when it did not have to, and then it creates beings that are also minds that can act freely. In other words, it creates in its image. So take a look at this list. This is our suspect description that has emerged after 6 pieces of evidence. We are looking for an uncaused first cause that is all-powerful, that is spaceless, timeless, non-material, that is the fine-tuner that has fine-tuned the universe with the purpose of achieving life in the universe, that is the author of the code, DNA code, that is so important to life, that is the designer behind the design, appearance of design we see in biology, that is the mind that creates beings in its image, that also acts freely, that creates when it didn't have to. It creates beings that have minds that also act freely. Now look at this list. That's a robust set of characteristics. And what are we describing here? One thing we know for sure. Nothing inside the room of the universe can actually account for this growing suspect profile. Once again, we're looking for a cause for all the stuff we see in the room that is still outside the room.
Thoughts? What do you think? Free agency. Neat.
I didn't think about how the mind can be disconnected from everything else that you think about, like the brain.
Okay. That's good. Do you like the idea of the domino? The domino doesn't have a choice to fall. And I think we were talking about this before we came into this story, but those bad decisions you guys made, right? You could have chosen something else. He's saying that people like to explain it away by different way that you were raised. Some people would even say that the environment that you were raised in. Go ahead, Nami.
I like this, writing about this made me question if your mind can be like separated from your body.
Okay.
Like from your physical mind can be separated. Like how your soul can be separated from your body when you die.
What if your mind is part of your soul?
Yeah, I think they're connected. But I don't think they're one and the same.
Okay. What else? What did you guys think about the 4 things he talked about? If you don't have free will and free agency, then the 4 things can't be possible: love, creative, rational thought, and culpability. Titus, what do you think? Don't know? Janelle? You think he's right? You think he's wrong? Does it require free will to have somebody love you?
Yeah.
Have you ever had somebody love you with you forcing them to? Have you ever loved somebody that didn't love you back? How about an animal? Right? What about being creative? It's interesting. It's interesting for sure. And as we move, one thing I was thinking as we could kind of move through, now we're at the next week, we're going to finish up. We're going to finish up on the problems of evil and law and order. They require a little bit more thought. How did this come about? But as we look, it's not just this one piece of evidence that helps us understand that it had to come from somewhere else. It's all these 6 pieces of evidence. It's the fine-tuning of the universe, right? It's the consciousness of the mind, you know? It's the intricacies of the biologies that happen in the universe, right? That help us realize that there had to have been a God. There had to have been something powerful enough to do all of this, right, Bryson?
Yes, sir.
So I think as we go into this isn't the end of the story. We're going to talk more about why we believe our God is that God and why Jesus is that person. But as we look at this, we have to be able to say, this is some evidence that helps me understand why I believe that there is a God that exists. And as we go into conversations with people, it's not so you can spout off all this crazy information that you just got. It's so that you can have an understanding, so that when you get into a place, Caden, where somebody challenges what you believe, you'll be able to do what, Kanaya? Stand sure-footed, right? Not be like, oh, snap. I never even thought about it like that. I never even thought about it. Emmanuel told me when he was challenged with an atheist, all this stuff came right back to him. He was like, "Nah, man, that don't make no sense. You telling me that it came about like this?" And he was able to talk to his atheist friend. He wasn't mean to him. He was able to talk to his atheist friend and say, "Listen, man, like, that's not what I believe, and here's why." And they could have an intellectual conversation about the differences that they believe. So much to the point where he was able to bring his friend to church and say, "Hey, come check it out. See if something's there, man. Examine the evidence. And if the evidence is pointing you to a God, why wouldn't you want to understand that? Why would you want to sit in a space that is unknown?" Right? That's why we're talking about this stuff. Pastor Dwayne is finishing up, so we're going to finish up as well. I got one thing I want to mention to you guys, and that is this missions trip. We have decided to allow One Life to go to Puerto Rico this year if you would like.
Puerto Rico?
Correct.
Puerto Rico.
Only teenagers 16 and up. If you are 15 and you really want to go, I would suggest you come to the meeting today and fill out an application, and we will assess your maturity as part of that application.
I'm 19, so can I still go?
Of course you can. It's 15 and up.
Okay.
16 and up. But everyone is going to have to fill out an application, and the pastors of the church will make decisions based on who is going to go. Okay? That is happening at the end of service today in the sanctuary directly after service. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Hit me.
Is there a set number of people who can go?
Correct.
Is there anything that we can do to prepare to go on this mission trip beforehand in the event that we are chosen to go?
Yes, and I will give you all that information in the meeting.
Okay.
Yep. So the first step is coming to the meeting. The second step is filling out the application. And then once we go from there, that's when we'll pick. I'll be honest, I know Pastor Dwayne wants to see young people go. I would love to see young people go. I will answer you this. You do not have to go with your parents. You can go without them. You will still be going with other people. Federico is going to be running the team that goes, so he will be in charge. But you will be witnessing. You will be praying for people. You will be doing service projects. All of those are guaranteed. Any other questions?
How long is it?
It's a week.
When is it happening?
The Puerto Rico trip, I believe, is July something. Do you remember? I don't remember off the top of my head. It'll be on the application when you fill it out. So the information you'll get in a minute. I just don't have it in my head right now. Questions, comments, concerns? Nothing? Perfect. Who wants to pray for us today? Jalen, come on up here and pray for us, buddy. You think you can handle that?
Yeah.
I think you can. Oh, does anybody have any offering they want to give today? I forgot. Hold that, Jalen. If anybody comes up, we're going to put it in there. You're going to have you pray over that and over the day. Come on up. If you got offering that you want to put in the bucket, Jalen's got a bucket for you. Come on. Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. Anything else? Let's go. Anything else? Anybody else? All right, Jalen, pray for us, brother.
All right. Thank you for everyone that brought offering today. And I pray that next week that everyone that didn't give today will have the ability to do next week or have the thought to do it. And I pray that this week everyone has a good week at school and have safe travels to home and work. And that all of us will move someone this week.
Amen.
And that we will fulfill our will that you have planned for us to do in life. And pray, amen.
Amen. Good prayer, man. Appreciate it. Good job. All right, so if you want to be a part of the meeting,
Mr. DeWitt, can you come right to the middle of the stairs, please?
then you're gonna head to the sanctuary and just hang in the sanctuary. We'll let you know what to do from there, and you can get that information. All right. Head upstairs. Your parents want to see you again. They miss you. They love you. We love you.
Ooh, yeah.
Darius cannot rap as good as Major.
Yep. Facts.
Real talk. Real talk.